Hey, what's up everyone, Ollie here. So Apple have just finished their spring-loaded event. They've announced quite a few new things. I'm not going to cover everything, but I'm going to cover things that I think are notable and obviously share my opinions. Let's get into it. So the big new one is the new redesigned iMac. They've gotten rid of the 21.5 inch model and replaced it with a new 24 inch model that has a complete redesign, complete overhaul. And yeah, some interesting design choices, but I'll cover that in a second. It comes in 7 different colors: silver, blue, green, pink, yellow, orange and purple. It has a new 24-inch 4.5K resolution display, has a new 1080p webcam, has a new 3 mic array for better microphone quality. It'll be interesting to see what this is like because the MacBooks are already so good when it comes to microphones. I wonder if they've improved it even further with the iMac. It also has a new 6-speaker design, and Apple are saying that these are some of the best speakers they've put in a Mac. Again, will be interesting to see because the speakers on the MacBook, especially the 16-inch MacBook, are fantastic, and I'm wondering how much better they can be in such a thin profile. There's now 4 USB-C ports. On the base model though, there's only 2 USB-C ports, but the models above that, you get 4 USB-C ports, with 2 of them being Thunderbolt ports. You also get a new Magic Keyboard with Touch ID. Again, this only comes with the higher end models. It doesn't come with the base model. On the pricing page, you can see the difference between the models. The base model comes with an 8-core CPU and 7-core GPU, while the others come with an 8-core CPU and an 8-core GPU. They also all come with 8GB of memory, with 256GB of SSD being the standard, but you can upgrade the SSD and you can upgrade the RAM as well. You can upgrade the RAM up to 16GB. Unfortunately, it doesn't go any higher than that. They've also removed the gigabit Ethernet port away from the actual machine and now put it into the actual charging brick, which is quite a unique design choice. But again, this is only for the higher end models. You don't actually get this on the base model. They've also gotten rid of the SD card reader, which I think is a big loss. I loved the SD card reader on the iMac. It's just useful having an SD card reader. Maybe Apple saw that many people weren't using it. I'm really hoping that they don't get rid of it on their higher end 27-inch models when the redesign for that comes out, because they haven't redesigned that yet or launched a new version of that yet either. Now, when it comes to my thoughts on this redesign, I'm very unsure, to be honest. I'm not really 100% on it yet. I'm hoping that my mind will change, mainly because there are a few things that I think just don't really make sense. For example, the chin at the bottom. I know they've moved the logic board and everything else, all of the components to the bottom into that chin, but why couldn't they just get rid of that chin altogether and then make the display itself a bit thicker and then put everything behind it? Because does it really matter how thin the actual computer is? Because you're not going to be carrying it anyway. You're not going to be packing it away. You're going to be having it on a desk where it's rarely ever going to move. So it's a bit of a weird choice. I think it's just because they want to still follow the design philosophy of the old iMacs. They want to still make it recognizable. They've also gotten rid of the logo, which of course makes it a bit cleaner. But yeah, it's interesting. Also, the bezels themselves around the top and the sides of the display is still quite thick. And we know that Apple can do thinner bezels because look at the Pro Display XDR. That has very nice thin bezels. I'm surprised they haven't done the same here. And the other thing is the actual bezel is white. It's not black. So yeah, quite interesting design choices. It'll be interesting to see what it's like in person. I'm going to reserve complete judgment of the new iMac until I get it in person. But yeah, interesting design choice. I'm hoping that I love it when I see it. I wish though that they did do a black version or a space grey version, but I'll be getting the silver version just because, you know, that's what I'm like. I like sort of very clean, minimalist, muted colours. Yeah, be interesting to see. I'm going to order one, see what it's like, give it a go and see how it compares to my 13-inch MacBook Pro. I expect the performance to be very similar, of course, because it has the new M1 chip. But just with a bigger display. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see because I think the pricing also isn't too bad. Apple also finally announced AirTag. So AirTag has been around, rumors flying everywhere for ages now, but they've finally done it. They've actually released AirTag. So AirTag is just a small circular little battery powered object that can be used to just track things. It uses the Find My service that iPhones and iPads have, and you can just attach or put the AirTag on anything and just track it. You know, if you want to maybe attach it to a suitcase or something like that, it's a great way to do that. You can also personalize it, so you can engrave it, even add emojis and things like that, make it the way you want. It incorporates the U1 chip, so if you have an iPhone 12, I think you can also use an iPhone 11 Pro maybe, but yeah, it uses the U1 chip, so if you're looking for a tag, your phone will pretty much direct you to it. Once you get close to it, it will direct you to it literally by telling you which way to go, which is pretty clever. Another cool feature is that if someone else finds a lost AirTag, they can actually tap that against their phone and see the contact information for the owner of that AirTag in case they've lost it, which is useful. So, if you've lost a suitcase or you've lost a bag or something and someone wants to return your bag to you, they can just tap the AirTag, find your information and get in touch with you. It's also water resistant and dust resistant as expected, and I found the pricing to be actually pretty good. You can get one for $29 or you can get a pack of 4 for $99, which isn't too bad. Battery life, Apple is saying, is more than a year, and apparently you can also replace the batteries yourself. A really big one, which I don't think a lot of people expected, is that Apple have announced a new iPad Pro, but they've put the M1 chip in the iPad Pro, which is just insane. So now you can have pretty much the same performance that you get from any of the M1 MacBooks or the M1 iMac in an iPad Pro, in a tablet, which is pretty crazy considering how powerful the M1 chip is and how great it is on battery life. My only concern is iPad OS. Having all that power, that M1 chip in a tablet like that, but not having an OS or not having apps that utilize it as well as maybe like proper desktop apps would, it's kind of just, I'm trying to figure out who is it exactly targeted to because I'm not really sure why you'd go for an M1 iPad Pro when you already have an M1 MacBook, when you could just go for a cheaper iPad. Who knows? Apple, of course, have most likely done their research and they've figured out that people want this. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I rarely know any people who have an iPad Pro, to be honest. It's only people who sort of use Procreate or maybe sort of business people. But I only have like one friend who has an iPad Pro. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see who actually buys a product like this. The new iPad Pros also now have mini LED displays. So they've actually taken the XDR Pro display and they sort of compacted it down into the iPad Pro. And the Pro Display XDR obviously is absolutely amazing. That's a very pro grade monitor. The specs on it are just insane. And they've pretty much incorporated the same thing on the iPad, obviously at a smaller scale. It's only available on the 12.9 inch model, the larger model, but this is probably one of the best 12.9 inch displays you'll ever find anywhere in the world. So yeah, pretty incredible. They've also upgraded the RAM on the iPads. You get 8 gigabytes of RAM with the 128 gig, 256 gig and 512 gig storage options. But if you go for the 1 terabyte or the 2 terabyte options, you get 16 gigabytes of RAM. 16 gigabytes of RAM in an iPad. That is just crazy. That's pretty insane. But again, I go back to my point of who's going to be using that much RAM on an iPad? Because even though you can do some multitasking with iPad OS, the apps that you sort of do multitasking with, I still don't think are really going to use 16 gigabytes of RAM, unless you're doing something like very heavy video editing or audio editing or something like that. Again, just a very sort of specialist use case of the iPad Pro. It's funny I say that because I'm going to buy one anyway, just to try it out, just to see what it's like. Next up is the new Apple TV 4K. They've actually brought the A12 Bionic chip into the Apple TV 4K. This Bionic chip is actually from 2018. It was launched in 2018. To be honest, I'm surprised they didn't put an M1 chip in it as well. But anyway, yeah, you can do a bunch of other things with Apple TV. You can now do things like HDR and high frame rates. But one of the coolest things that I saw was that you can now actually calibrate the Apple TV with your iPhone. So you can hold your iPhone up against the TV and the Apple TV will then sort of calibrate its signal so that the TV is balanced, color balanced and whatever else, which is pretty incredible. I feel like this is just such a cool feature to make sure that the colors and everything that you see that come out of your TV can be best matched as possible, because of course it depends on the panel that you have in your TV, but being able to calibrate it and get the color right will make a world of difference for people who do care about that sort of thing. There's also the new Apple TV remote. I know many people hated the old Apple TV remote. I didn't mind it too much, but yeah, you couldn't really tell which way up it was sometimes without looking down at it. And you could easily crack the glass if you dropped it. Considering remotes are meant to be thrown around and sort of dropped and stuff, you know, you're not going to be taking care of a remote. Yeah, putting glass in a TV remote, probably not a good idea. The new remote has been completely redesigned. It looks nothing like the old one. There's a bunch more buttons on it as well. And there's actually a sort of scroll wheel at the top. That's almost like the old iPod. You know, you can actually use it to scroll through stuff. You can swipe your thumb over it just like you would on the old iPods. I think this will make more precise tasks a lot easier to do. They've also removed the Siri button to the side of the remote, just like on your iPhone, and it actually has an on-off button at the top of the remote. You don't actually have to hold down on anything to then get to another menu to put your Apple TV to sleep. Yeah, great redesign. I'm really looking forward to using the new Apple TV. I'll definitely be getting one. I just want that new remote. It's going to make a world of difference. So that's it. Those are just some of the things that Apple announced at their spring-loaded event. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on all this sort of stuff. So make sure to be subscribed. I'll be doing videos and reviews and all sorts of other stuff, testing them out. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and subscribe for more.